Welcome, everybody. My name is Marek Wystepek. I'm the Sustainability Partner at the Institute of Sustainability Studies. And today's webinar is all about grants that are available in Ireland for Enterprise Ireland clients and IDA Ireland clients, all around sustainability training. Now, we are seeing a growing desire for companies to drive sustainability, driven in parts by regulations, investor pressure, desires to drive savings, and for commercial opportunities that this can provide. Now, what we often see is that there is a desire, but a lot of companies struggle with the implementation, which is where training becomes vitally important. And if you can avail of grants towards this, it really goes a long way to helping drive change. Now, if people have questions, can you add them into the chat function? I think it's at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and come to them at the end of the webinar. So let's jump in. So a quick agenda. I'll start with a little bit about who we are. Then I'll run through the 3 relevant grants available to EI clients, Enterprise Ireland clients, followed by the 2 relevant grants for IDA clients. So just to clarify, Enterprise Ireland clients are Irish-owned manufacturing or internationally traded services, typically with above 10 employees, and IDA clients are foreign-owned multinationals based in Ireland, either to establish or expand their European operations. I'll also run through an option we have for application assistance that we can offer via a partner before a wrap-up, and we'll look at the questions. So here at the Institute of Sustainability Studies, our mission is to equip individuals and organizations with the tools to lead in the face of growing sustainability challenges, be it regulations, risk, investor demands and opportunities, or new business through increased tender success and even talent attraction and retention. So a bit about where we started. The founders originally saw a gap in the marketplace for a university accredited, globally recognized diploma in business sustainability, which was aimed primarily at individuals who were usually working in a company and given the additional responsibility of sustainability. So we launched that product in 2022, and today over 1,000 people from all over the world, from all backgrounds and industries, have been through that course. And the majority were actually funded through their companies. However, about 2 years ago, we saw some changes. A lot of clients were coming back to us looking for help, as it's difficult for an individual or for a small team to drive change across an organization. And what we saw was that companies would have a strategy in place, but there was a gap between the strategy and how that impacts roles and departments. So we set about on how we could help companies move from a strategy that was, owned by that sustainability team to execution owned by the workforce. And that led us to developing a new product that we've called Essentials, which is self-paced, bite-sized micro e-learning modules, typically 15 to 30 minutes in length, but providing around half a day of learning through tasks and additional reading. But very importantly, we tailor these to each of our clients, utilizing their own case studies and data, which we found to really increase the effectiveness of the training. We also offer webinars, lunch and learn sessions, which both can be delivered either in person or live online. And a lot of clients quite like the hybrid model of mixing webinars with e-learning modules. And we also offer the ability to run strategy sessions and integrate sustainability data collection via a partner. We put people at the heart of the solution we develop. Everything we build combines practical tools, real industry or company case studies, expert insights, and flexible learning, ensuring people gain actionable skills that can be applied immediately in their role. We believe sustainability education should be practical, flexible, tailored, and relevant. So starting with the Enterprise Ireland grants, there are 3 relevant grants available to clients around training. That's the Climate Action Voucher, Green Start, and Green Plus. So the first EI grant, the Climate Action Voucher, this is available for anyone who is an EI client, including the high potential startups, SMEs of any size, and large companies. and it's aimed at businesses looking to jumpstart their sustainability journey. And what you get is an €1,800 grant towards training or advisory services in the form of sort of training or consultancy, which is capped at 900 per day for those. Any application must also include either the development of a sustainability action plan, a decarbonisation action plan, or a circular economy action plan. From our perspective, this can be utilised towards an individual looking to do the diploma in business sustainability or accessing trainers from our database. So for the diploma, using the voucher would actually bring the cost down from 2,950 to only 1,150. Or for accessing a trainer, you could cover 2 days at the 900 cap per day. And the process, which is actually the same for all grants, is you would need to engage with your Enterprise Island business advisor to start the conversation. And any company applying would also need to provide their organization carbon footprint as part of the application. But there are free tools available to achieve this. So the Climate Action Voucher really is a kickstarting type of grant. Next, they offer something called the Green Start Grant. So again, available to all Enterprise Island clients, including high potential startups. SMEs, though, usually they state with more than 10 employees and large EI clients. And this is aimed more at businesses looking to further develop their sustainability journey. So the grant covers it's €5,000 or 80% towards a specific assignment. So if an assignment is valued at 6,300, you would be able to receive the full €5,000 grant. And again, has that daily max rate for consultants of €900. The goal of Green Start is typically an advisory project. So it's looking to bring the company on a significant step up in capability, usually focused on working with Green Champion or the Green Team on a specific project. And projects could be anything from, say, water stewardship, biodiversity awareness, green procurement. There's actually a list of 20 projects on the EI website, and we'll provide that in a pack afterwards. From our perspective, we can provide access to specialist trainers who can work specifically with the Green Champion on the development of that specific green project. And again, that same process of discussing initially with the business advisor, and any company applying needs to provide their organization carbon footprint as part of that application. And finally, the largest grant from EI is called Green Plus. So this is for SMEs with more than 10 employees and large Enterprise Island clients. Any high potential startups in receipt of EI funding are not eligible for 3 years post-investment. So this is aimed at businesses looking to develop a high level of environmental management and staff capabilities, drive environmental efficiencies, and achieve improved sustainability by establishing and embedding continuous improvement systems and behaviors. And it's focused on training services. So what you get, it's 50% of eligible costs up to a maximum of €100,000. So it's €50,000 of a grant. You can also apply for this 3 times, and costs include both external and internal costs, which is very important. So external costs include consultants and trainers, which again has that €900 per day cap, plus the development of training courses. But very importantly, you can now include internal costs in the form of salary. Salary component is usually made up of a maximum of 200 days and usually for a maximum of 10 people with a capped rate of €200 per day. Now, this is significant as in incorporating these internal costs can ensure the grant covers the majority, if not all, of the external costs. Green Plus assignments typically last 6 to 9 months in duration. And the goal is to provide training in at least one specific area, like environmental management systems or energy management systems, eco-design, or it could be a combination of a few. There's a list of 18 that is on the EI website, and I'll put that in the pack as well afterwards. From our perspective, we can work with clients and develop out a full tailored training program built specifically for you. And again, that same process of talking with a business advisor and starting the application process. and the same carbon footprint is required. Now, keep in mind, you don't need to start with the climate action voucher and move up. You can start at any point you want to within these grants. So it gives you the chance, if you wanted to start with the Green Plus, you could start with that first. So to give you an example of how this works when you incorporate the internal and the external costs, I have an example. So in this example, the client had already started their sustainability journey, um, and they were looking for more advanced training to move them towards a B Corp certification. So we conducted a survey of staff and key employees to determine knowledge gaps and their preferred learning style and options. And through that, we identified four key topics that were gaps and that the online microlearning was their preferred option. So what we developed was four bespoke micro e-learning modules covering those key knowledge gaps that were uncovered. And we utilized, their own case studies and data and further industry data and case studies as well to really make it relatable. And we also included a number of diplomas in that initial pack. So that had a total cost of 35,000 euros, sorry, which is an external cost. We also gave access to our learning management system. So that was how people gained access to the actual materials, the essentials we created. Plus, it gave access to our community, which has over 1,000 people in there, and access to over 50 hours of exclusive masterclasses. So masterclasses are expert-led online sessions led by industry leaders who share first-hand insights, practical strategies, and emerging trends. And so these can be accessed live or via recordings, and we run these every month. Each completed essential and masterclass earned each team member an ISS certificate of completion, and the essentials also gave a CPD hour to each person for each one completed. So that had a 5,000 euro external cost for that. Now, through the application process, the client was able to allocate 200 days towards training, which gave an internal cost of 40,000 euros. So the total project cost and the application was for 80,000 with a grant of 40,000 from Enterprise Island. So the effective cost to the company was actually zero, as they were already paying those salaries. Now, it doesn't always work out that you can fully offset the external cost, and the internal cost can never be actually more than the external cost in the application. But as you can see, leveraging the internal piece to significantly reduce any outlays it's important. And these grants, you have to fund the project initially, and then the grant is paid on completion of the project. Now, another thing to know with this grant, this is currently an EU funded grant, and I believe this will cease at the end of 2026. But I believe it's also being replaced with something funded through, it'd be something similar funded through the Irish Exchequer, but I'm not sure what those specifics are. So as we know, changes can obviously delay things. And I think if anyone is considering utilizing this grant, I'd suggest you would try for it before it changes. Now, moving on to the IDA grants. There are two specific grants for training. I've not included it here, but IDA clients can also access a grant called the Green Capital Grant, which is to support the purchase and installation of capital items. I'll include those in the material that we send out. So regarding training grants, the first one that IDA do is called Green Plus to confuse matters. And it's similar but slightly different to the EI Green Plus grant. So you obviously have to be an IDA client, and it's for clients looking to develop a site-specific action plan which incorporates staff training. So a climate action plan is a strategic roadmap designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change impacts. And the staff training is usually aimed at sort of green champions and green teams. And what you get with this grant is 50% of eligible costs up to a maximum of 60,000 euros. So it's a 30,000 euro grant. Same cap of 900 euros for consultants and trainers per day. And the salary piece that you can apply has a cap of 200 per day as well. and a maximum amount of 20,000 that can be utilized against the application. So with the goal of developing a climate action plan, it must include a measurement of baseline emissions for the site, a target to reduce emissions by a certain amount by X year, and a multi-year, usually 3 to 5 year investment to reach the target. Now, as there is the salary cap of 20,000, even though they state there's no limits on the number of people, it still tends to be aimed at those green teams or green champions. So we find this works really well, almost like a pilot for the large grant, which I'll explain next. From our perspective, we can both develop specific training programs and provide recommendations of specialist trainers who can work with you and the green teams on the development of these climate action plans. Application process is actually quite quick, 3 to 4 weeks, and the same type of process. You would reach out to your IDA business advisor to start the conversation. So the next grant from IGA is called the training grant. So again, you have to be an IGA client, and it's for clients looking to implement company-wide, so site-wide staff training over a 3 year period. And training is focused within sustainability, digitization and data, innovation, and organizational change management. And you can focus your application in one area or a mix of all, or just a mix of a couple of them. And what you get, so this is a maximum of 50% grant, and that percentage is determined based on the number of previous grants that you may have received as an IGA client. So the more grants, potentially that percentage drops. And the maximum grant amount is 3 million. External costs include, on-site training, development of tailored training solutions, digital delivery of training, travel. And then internal costs, it's again the salary apportionment based on the amount of time allocated to the training. A slight difference here, though, the salary amount is based on the group's average salary. Now, this grant can be applied. So you receive the grant back yearly, so an amount per year rather than waiting for the end of the 3 year period. Now, another interesting element to this, IGA clients typically have multiple entities for tax reasons. So you can actually apply for this grant per entity. So for example, client may have an R&D entity, a manufacturing entity, and a HQ entity. So you could, in theory, apply for this grant 3 times if that was the case. You had 3 entities set up. And the goal of this grant is to train as many people in Irish sites to ensure outcomes are achieved by the company. It's a single application for the whole 3 year plan. You don't need to break out what the training is. You just need to give a single figure for the complete cost that needs to be provided towards the training development. So yeah, I mentioned you already get the grant back yearly over a 3 year period. It's a longer application process. You need to have very clear challenges and clear business outcomes identified. And again, the process is reaching out to your IDA business advisor to begin the conversation. And from our perspective, we would look to work with clients to develop a multi-year training solution for all the employees with specific challenges and outcomes defined for each year. So this is just an example, but mirrors what can be done. So this client was looking at a large training grant where we work on the sustainability portion. We would typically run a strategy session with the senior leadership team to uncover their key challenges and goals and desired outcomes, usually over a 2 day period to really fully uncover what they need to achieve these targets. So off the back of that, so this free strategy session we'd run, we developed a 36 tailored microlearning e-module program over the 3 years, so a delivery per month, straight onto their own learning management system, 12 live online workshops to run quarterly, and they were focused on the topics that were covered in the previous 3 months e-modules. Even though we provided the content for their own LMS, we still gave access to our system. opening up the community and the masterclasses to everybody. So the total external costs in this scenario was just under 300,000 euros. And we were able to map each micro learning as a half day training when you incorporate the exercises. And the workshops also were mapped as a half day of training. So this gave a total number of 24 days of training for each employee over that 3-year period. And then worked out the group's average daily salary at 170. So that gave a total internal cost of just over 4 million. So in this example, they'd already had previous grants, so they were able to secure a 35% grant, giving a total grant of just over 1.5 million. Now, again, the same issue, the client has to pay again up front and recruit that grant, but you get a piece back every year. So as you can see, when done properly, there is a significant help that can be claimed for both EI and IDA clients. Now, an area that we do see it as being a challenge is the actual application process itself. We will always help as best as we can, but in reality, there's a lot of work from your side in applying for this grant. So we've actually partnered with a specialist who can help with now they only help on the IDA application process. So Tactive is the company specializing in helping companies of all sizes secure grants and maximize the grant value. So the benefits really, they take all this workload off your plate. But really importantly, they've had great success in increasing the grant value and also the grant percentage. So for example, taking a 1 million application at 30%, they were able to secure 3 million at 50% grant. So we would, if it made sense, we'd work directly with Tactive to help you maximize this opportunity. So some key takeaways. The significant funding is available across both Enterprise Ireland and IDA Ireland for grants to support sustainability training and strategy development. The Institute of Sustainability Studies is an approved vendor for both Enterprise Ireland and IDA grants, and grants can cover both external training costs and internal staff time, reducing that real cost to the business. There are different pathways existing depending on maturity. So early stage climate action vouchers, Green Star, right through to large scale transformations through the IDA training grants. So what this really means for your business, it helps you build internal capability, helps align teams across functions with practical role specific knowledge, helps accelerate compliance, improve tender positioning, unlocks commercial opportunities and drives cost saving efficiencies. And it helps deliver measurable outcomes with minimal net costs when structured correctly. Now, things that we feel are very important, generic training delivers really limited impact. We feel tailored role and industry specific training drives real business value and it helps with the grant approval as well. So from a next steps perspectives, reach out to us and we can support you, maybe help identify the most suitable grant pathway, define the training, define any gaps across teams, help put the program together, and leverage experts to support the funding and application complexity. Organizations that move fastest are not those with the best strategy, but those with the capability to execute it. Hopefully you found the webinar interesting and informative. So I say you can email me directly. It's Marek at the Institute of Sustainability Studies.com. And let's see if we can help with grants if you're interested. So thanks again for attending and have a lovely day.